It's Sunday night and I am getting ready for bed, but I wanted to share something. Actually, I was a couple coworkers or colleagues and I did put on an event yesterday, and there were several things that I shared that obviously I find valuable. But one of those things that is super interesting and intriguing to me, I thought I would share. And well, there's Dr. Bruce Lipton. That's a story or a scientific study that he did that I wanted to share about. He, maybe, hopefully, many of you are familiar, but with who he is. But Dr. Bruce Lipton, he's written a book called The Biology of Belief, and he's just teaches a lot of amazing things. He was a doctor that taught back east, actually, I think Wisconsin University. Anyway, he has his PhD and was teaching at a university and doing stem cell research back in the 70s. Anyway, he did this study that is super fascinating where he took 3 samples of the identical cell, so 3 identical samples, and let me rephrase, he took a sample from these stem cells, identical, and he split into 3 separate petri dishes. So they're all identical cells, split it up, 3 different petri dishes, and then would only change the chemical medium, the culture medium slightly, that created a different environment. In doing this over time, what actually ended up happening was that each one of these petri dishes that started out as the exact same cell grew differently. One grew a muscle, one grew a bone, and one grew a fat cell, or it grew fat. What he learned from this, which is super fascinating, is he learned about genes where, we've always heard people say, it's in my genes. And it doesn't matter whether it has to do with, diabetes or cancer or depression or whatever. It seems like if it's something that's been kind of a generational thing or it's been passed on, then this individual feels like they're inevitable to have this disease or issue within their life because it's in their genes. Well, this was a great study in showing that that is not truth. Actually, he learned that the gene is just a blueprint. It's just a blueprint. And the term that was developed is called epigenetic, and epi means above. Learning that it's actually above or outside of the gene that determines the expression of the gene. It is the environment around the gene that creates how that gene expresses itself. And in the human body, the environment is the blood. I'm going to read a quote that he actually shared, and I believe this is actually in his book, The Biology of Belief. And it says, quote, "A human is a skin-covered petri dish with 50 trillion cells inside, and the culture medium is blood. As we change the composition of our blood, we change the fate of our cells. The brain is the chemist. Whatever the mind is perceiving, the brain will take that picture and break it down into complementary chemistry. If you see joy and happiness, then the brain will take joy and happiness into chemistry, such as dopamine pleasure, and put this into your blood. If you interpret it in a positive way, you release chemistry that enhances growth. But if you're nervous or in fear, then you secrete chemistry that puts you in protection. Growth is open and protection is closed. You cannot be in both at the same time. Stress hormones shut off the immune system. It's not to punish you, it's just that the immune system uses a lot of energy. So, a couple things I wanted to point out is one, this reminder that, okay, when he states, when you see joy and happiness, then the brain will take in joy and happiness into chemistry, such as dopamine pleasure, and put this into your blood. It is, it makes me think about the fact that I've heard a lot of people talk about how they have a chemical imbalance. And so because of this chemical imbalance, they're put on a particular type of medicine to correct this. The cool thing here is that we learn, why was there a chemical imbalance to begin with? Everything starts with our thoughts. Our thoughts have a certain vibration and frequency that send this message, that creates this chemical, and it goes through our blood, that creates disruption, disharmony, dis-ease in our body. Thoughts create emotion, and emotion is a very intense vibration and frequency within our body that has a huge effect on us physically, mentally, and emotionally speaking. Anyway, I love the idea of learning that, okay, this isn't just to have a chemical imbalance. This is, where is this chemical imbalance coming from? And it always, and not just chemical imbalance, but things, they start with our thoughts. Our thoughts are massive. And unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess it depends on how you look at it, we also live our daily lives using our conscious mind 5% of the time and our subconscious mind 95% of the time. So, for example, if you think about any time, maybe you were driving to work or driving to a certain location, your mind starts wandering. It's thinking about, oh, your to-do list for the day and what's going on with your child, and maybe an argument you had with a family member, whatever. Your mind is consciously thinking about these things. You arrive at point B, but you don't really remember the in-between, because literally, while your conscious mind was going through this list of things, your subconscious mind, which its job is survival, got you. It took over the whole driving and got you safely to your destination, hopefully safely. Keeping that in mind, there's a couple things to consider. One is the fact that we can make changes in our life when we use more time or take time to be more consciously aware of our thoughts. Try to bring ourselves into that conscious mindset more when we get caught up in those habits and patterns in our daily life that might not be helping us become our best selves or get to the best place that we really want to be. You know, if it's maybe it's the same argument that might be slightly different, but ultimately the same argument that you keep having, you know, on a regular basis. If we stop, rather than allowing ourselves to go through that same cycle, stop and try and be more focused on utilizing our conscious part of our mind and saying, okay, wait, urge. What am I feeling? Where is this really coming from? Can I do something different? Can I say something different? Trying to change that thought process, to change those experiences and emotions, to try to make some change. The other thing is to consider the fact that there are other ways to work on things that take us to this place in our subconscious mind. If we want to make changes there, and this is something actually I'll probably do a video on later, but there are a lot of things that go on in our mind at a subconscious level that we're completely unaware of, that can bring us to this place that we're talking about, as far as maybe it is anxiety, depression, whatnot, that is sending certain sending these certain chemicals through our blood that's contributing to making us sick. And so we might need some help working on some of those subconscious things to help us feel better. And then in here, when he talks about stress hormones shut off the immune system, because the immune system uses a lot of energy. I mean, consider, for example, sorry, trying not to yawn. Consider, for example, how many times, you hear about a person being sick that it was brought on by stress. How much sense does this make? I know several people that have gone to the hospital and they really couldn't find the problem that was making this person so sick. And the doctor would say, oh, it was stress related. Well, there you have it. Because the stress shut down the immune system so it could focus on handling the stress. It's this whole design of, oh my gosh, the saber-toothed tiger's going to attack. I'm going to die. My focus is survival. So I don't need my immune system right now to be able to survive. That has to be my focus. I had a family member actually that I had taken to a naturopath years ago. And he was listening. He had never met her, and he was listening to her different organs and said, she has been living in a state of fight or flight for a very long time, and explaining the effect it was having on her organs and contributing to things like adrenal fatigue and whatnot. And it just shows how being in that state or fight or flight, that stress, the anxiety, the fear, shuts things down and contributes to so many various illnesses and dis-ease. And these can be traumatic events, and these can be thoughts, obviously. Thoughts, emotions, things that send a specific chemical through our body, certain messages through the culture medium, the blood of our body, that is really intended to protect us in that survival mode. But I think the big point of this is to understand, I guess, a couple things. One, the simple fact that we don't have to be a victim thinking that, oh, it's just in my genes. It's in my genes, and so I don't have control over it. That is not truth. There may have been family members that have had these certain illnesses, but it doesn't have to be me, because I can choose to have power over my thoughts, etc. And that is a powerful thing, getting out of victim mode and being able to empower ourselves and make changes. And there was a second thing, and I totally lost my train of thought. I might just have to come back to it when I do another video. But I think that is one big thing I guess I wanted to put out there tonight, was just this little, share this experiment, this study, and recognize that our genes are a blueprint, and that our thoughts have an enormous amount of power. And that's something we can do something about to change. And if it's subconscious, we can get help if we need to, but there's still things that we can do to help the subconscious mind work through some of these things so that we can help our mind and our body, our spirit, be healthy, really. Anyway, I actually shared several things presented several things in this event, this conference yesterday, and I just wanted to, I guess, break down maybe a couple of these concepts in a couple of videos, and hopefully somebody learned something new that it can give you to ponder, that you might recognize that you can gain a tool and do something to help yourself. Anyway, I hope that helps somebody, and I will jump on here probably in a couple days and share something else. Have a good night.